Reading a research, Frank, looking at what you've been saying that President Trump enjoys being the hero of his own stories. So what can he come up with where he is the hero?
Hi, morning, Rich. Thanks for having me on. Look, the point there is, in the short run, I think these trade moves mean extra friction, extra cost, and there's going to be some economic pain involved with where the U.S. is going and China is following. But over the long run, I am a bit of an optimist. I do think this gets resolved. And one thing we know about President Trump is he likes to declare victory. So at some point, it behooves him to say, I fixed the problem, or I did more to fix the problem than anybody else. Then he does enjoy being the hero of his own stories.
Well, what would he come up with, and what would be acceptable from the Chinese side to give away here to mollify him?
Yeah, this is the conundrum, because the Trump administration has not been clear in what it's precisely seeking. And, of course, China has a modern, complicated economy, and its ability to move on some of these issues is going to be sort of sequential, or it can take time to fix problems or address them. So that tells us it's not going to be the next 30 or 60 days, but maybe as we get into 90 or 120 days, there'll be enough of an offer from China's side. I'm looking at things like compulsory IP licensing, where U.S. has a lot of sensitivities. The subsidies of steel that China undertakes now, where U.S. is very sensitive. So there's two or three things like that where China really could make some moves, and the U.S. could declare victory. But that's a conjecture. We don't have an indicator that's what's going to happen, but that would be the positive outcome.
How much of it could be put down to cultural dissonance? How much can be put down to politics as well, that perhaps we get something out of the midterms, some thawing in these talks, or lack of talks, or the relationship?
Well, I'll tell you, I think before we get to the midterms, I think what's going to happen in the next 30 days or so is going to be these tariffs do come into place. I think that we have to count on that President Trump is not bluffing and the Chinese are not bluffing. So we'll see tariffs imposed on both sides, and we're going to see a bit of economic pain. And I think that pot has to boil a bit, if you will, for people to say this is costing us jobs, it's costing us sales, it's going to make U.S. companies less competitive with their exports. All of that has to sort of ripple through the system, and there'll be a little bit of, I think, of a consensus building on the U.S. side that we better cut a deal. And I think we'll see the same thing for the Chinese side. But I think that's natural market economics. It'll just take a month or two for that to fully manifest itself.